What's up guys, this is Randy here at AGM. In this video we are talking about our Rattler V2 thermal scope line. So we're going to have every model here to talk about. Just going to do a quick overview of some of the primary features and benefits you get with the Rattler V2, as well as talking about the differences between the Rattler V2 and the Rattler V1. So let's get right into it. One of the primary differences that's worth talking about between the Rattler V1 and the Rattler V2 is the size and form factor difference. So I have the Rattler V1 with me here, a 35mm option, and our Rattler V2 right here. You'll notice just right off the beginning here that the Rattler V2s are a little bit bigger than our Rattler V1s, but they still pack a lot of features inside the body. They're still compact, they're lightweight, but they are a little bit larger in size when compared to our Rattler V1 series. To start with the cap, we made some improvements over the cap design. It now folds in place, which is, it's a small thing. I like to say that it's the little things that make kind of a big difference, but that's a really nice touch. You will just notice an improved cap design. You push a button to clip it out of the way and it folds out of place really easy. It swivels around left to right, and it's just an improved cap design. Maybe it's not a big deal to you, but a lot of guys can kind of, you know, sometimes caps break, sometimes they break off, or they get in the way, or they can snag. So that was just kind of a really nice touch that we added to the cap. Moving behind the cap, you'll notice that the focus knob is shaped a little differently than our Rattler V1. The focus knob now has these 3 high points in the knob, and to get the entire range of focus, it's roughly about a 1/4 turn. It's really smooth, easy to activate and use and manipulate, and what that kind of translates to when you're on your gun and when you're out there hunting, it's easy to find, so you're not grabbing the wrong part of the scope. Keep in mind that you're probably going to be in the dark, and when you're manipulating your focus, going from one end to the spectrum and getting dialed in and focused is really fast. If you're familiar with our old Rattler V1s, a lot of these had a lot of throw. You had to turn these quite a bit. I think they do a full 360, and you have to turn them quite a bit to go from, if you're hunting hogs, let's say you see a hog up close and you're focused on that, and then you turn over and you see something out in the distance. It just took a lot longer to get that focused, and when it's in the dark and you're trying to fumble around and you're in the excitement of the moment, adding those nice touches to the focus knob was just kind of a really big improvement for us. Moving on from there, we should talk about the button layout. So we were a really big fan of, and we got a lot of feedback that a lot of people were a really big fan of just the directional pad that our Rattlers were famous for. So there still is a intuitive kind of button layout, front, back, left, right, and that helps navigate in the menu. But outside of the buttons on top being more ruggedized, they also each have their own distinct, unique feel to them, so that if you're in the dark wearing gloves, it's a lot easier to navigate and feel and know which button your fingers are resting on. We actually also added this ridge in between the left and right button. Activating the menu is just holding down the menu button. You still get to cycle through color palettes. You hit your zoom button. Camera button's really simple. You just press it, or press and hold if you want it to start recording. You can press and hold the zoom button to get your picture in a picture display. So really simple, easy kind of button layout. We're really happy with it. Moving on from there, the eyepiece, really it's the same eyepiece, so you just get to adjust your focus of the screen itself inside just by adjusting this, but it's the same eyepiece and the same eye cups as our Rattler V1s. And then we should also talk about the American Defense Manufacturing mount. We still went with, because they're tried and true, we love them. They're fantastic for what they do. American Defense Manufacturing QD mount on the Rattler V2. What that provides you is a really good solid lockup for return to zero, but it also means you can grab it off of your gun and treat these as a monocular. And I was actually talking to a guy just the other day who wanted kind of a unit that could do both. He could put it in his bag, it could be compact and lightweight. He wanted to use it as a monocular and potentially throw it on a gun at times and use it as a scope. So it's a fantastic option if that's something that you're looking into doing as well. Now next we're going to talk about the battery of the Rattler V2. As opposed to our Rattler V1, we have a spring-loaded knob here. So you just twist it and open the compartment, and you'll notice that there's this little red tab inside. You'll just push it out of the way and your battery pops out like so. So on the body, on the note of the body, the reason we went with this battery and this compartment style is for actually quite a lot of reasons. If you're familiar with our Rattler V1s, for example, if you were, first, they're running CR123s, so you only got about 4 to 5 maybe battery life on the two CR123s. They're common, they're expensive, but they are common. You can find them anywhere. But changing batteries in the dark could be kind of cumbersome. There was this knob, you had to twist and unscrew this compartment, and doing this, especially if it's cold and you're wearing gloves and it's dark, could be a little bit difficult. And then popping it open, you would have the two CR123s, and they'd have to be oriented correctly before they got put back in the unit, and then before you closed it up. So just changing batteries, especially if it was in the middle of a hunt at the nighttime, was kind of a pain. So to improve upon that, we started thinking about a lot of different things. The battery compartment as a whole being spring-loaded, you could just twist the knob and the whole thing just pops open. That's a big improvement, especially if it's something you need to do quickly and in the dark. Now, for the battery itself, we went with this block-style lithium-ion battery, and there are a number of reasons we went that direction. One obvious advantage over like 18650s was the battery life. We're getting about 9.5 to 11 hours, and I've even seen some cases where we get a little bit more, but you're getting a whole lot of battery life on one battery. But then ease of use took its factor in kind of the design process of this unit as well. To replace your battery, you just simply insert it and then press the door shut, and you're ready to go. So like, there isn't any more cumbersome kind of fumbling in the night. To remove the battery, again, you just twist the knob, push the red lever, it pops out. To replace it, you just press a new battery in and shut the door. So like, it's really fast, it's really easy to replace. You get 2 of them in the box, and the battery life on one battery is again 9.5 to 11 hours. And that's obviously depending on the kind of use that you're putting the unit through. But basically what we wanted was a battery that could last you the entire night with no issues. So that's what we provided, and that was the best avenue for us to do it that way. You get 2 of them in the box, so you can bring the spare with you in case one dies. And if you are worried about running an even more battery power, you still get the USB-C connectivity port here, so you can run a battery bank if that's what you choose to do. So you shouldn't have any issues or concerns about battery life or the battery running out on you. You can consider that more or less solved with the Rattler V2. We're pretty happy with it. Next thing that we need to talk about is the menu. When you navigate to the menu by pressing and holding the menu button, you'll notice that the user interface has been updated and simplified. We went with a more intuitive design with the user interface, and we think everyone's going to be pretty happy with it. Now, with that user interface, you still get your 5 reticle profiles, and within each 5 you have 5 subsets that you could save. And what that basically means is that you get 25 reticle saved options. So that means you're still good to go if you want to save a reticle profile and zero it for one firearm or caliber, and then a different firearm or different caliber that allows you to kind of use the same thermal device on multiple guns. You still get that option. If that's not your jam and you just want to use one, that's fine, but you also have multiple in there. So if you want to save more than one zero, that's also fine. So if you have a 100-yard zero, but hey, now you're going to go do coyote hunting and you prefer like a longer zero for whatever reason, you can just save a different zero into the menu here, and you'll be good to go. You also get 10 reticle options and more reticle colors. So you have a lot more options in terms of personalizing the reticle for you and for your needs. Outside of that, you'll also notice that we have this feature called pre-recording, which is essentially your shot activated recording. And what that means is that the unit will always be recording, and then it will start saving that rather than deleting it. It will start saving it the moment that it detects recoil. So for those guys that fumble around in the dark, can't figure out where your record button is, and you want to record your hunts, but you just want to put it out of your mind and not worry about it, just turn on pre-recording and you should be good to go, and you won't have any issues there. Outside of those additions, you'll also notice you have the ability now to turn on or off audio. The unit does record, and it also records audio. If you prefer not to hear yourself like I do on camera or in audio, you can just turn that off and you'll just get video feed. And outside of that, you'll just notice just a better user interface and more brightness, contrast, image settings, and overall just a more pleasing experience with the user interface and the menu. You still get Wi-Fi access and all of the things that you like, but we did kind of trim the fat and get rid of some of the features and simplify some of the features that you might be familiar with our Rattler V1s. Next thing we're going to talk about is some of the technical differences between the various models in the lineup. So I have here all 6 of our Rattler V2 offerings, starting with over here 19mm 256 resolution, all the way up to a 50mm in 640 resolution. There are some differences and some commonalities between all of them that's worth mentioning. One thing that all Rattler V2's got is a 12 micron sensor. So what that means, especially for your 384 models, as opposed to your previous generation, is that your base mag is a little bit higher on those 384, but the base mag is essentially the same on the 640 and the 256 resolution units. Everything is 12 micron, so you are going to get a little bit better image quality across the board. Another thing worth noting is that for our 384 and 640 resolution options, those have a sub 20 millikelvin sensor. And for those guys that understand this science stuff, what that essentially means is the unit's ability to differentiate and detect smaller temperature variation. What that equates to is more detail. So if you're familiar with our Sidewinder series or our Voyage LRF series, you probably have seen an update in the image quality, and that holds true for our 384 and 640 resolution units. If you're familiar with our previous 256 resolution units, we still have a better image quality at sub 35 millikelvin, but they also now have 50 hertz on their refresh rate. So for close to about $1,000, you can pick up a pretty adequate 256 thermal scope that'll probably do a pretty good job at detecting animals out to maybe 100-200 yards, depending on if it's a small animal or a large animal or what you're hunting. And then you could spend, you know, upwards of $4,000 and get something a little bit more premium. But we basically have a model in every flavor with a few various, you know, technical differences between the two, or between them all. But generally speaking, improved image quality, sub 20 millikelvin on the higher performing stuff, 50 hertz and 12 micron across the board, something that we're pretty happy with, and we think you will be too. Alright guys, so that is it. That's basically the overview of the Rattler V2 thermal rifle scope. We didn't get into the nitty-gritty details, but that gives you an idea of whether or not you might be interested in picking up a Rattler V2 thermal scope. Basically, to kind of talk to that a little bit, if you're looking for a do-it-all, compact, lightweight, really simple to use, fantastic thermal rifle scope for the cost, the Rattler V2 is something I would absolutely recommend, and we're pretty happy and excited for it. We hope you are too. Obviously, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below, and if not, we'll see you next time.